In this video I'm going to show you how to set up a Masternode with a Linux VPS, which is a virtual private server, running the Masternode daemon, and a Windows cold wallet that contains your coins. This is the safest setup because your coins will exist in your Windows wallet or your Mac wallet, however you're setting that up. And the Masternode daemon, which is sort of the Masternode process, will be running on the machine in the cloud, the Linux VPS machine in the cloud. So it's running 24/7, and it's really the only machine that anyone knows about. So if somebody searches all the available masternodes on the network, they can see the IP address of the machines running those masternodes. So if they search for any machines running the masternode, they'll see that Linux machine, and if they tried to hack onto that Linux machine, the worst they could do is turn off your masternode. They couldn't get to your coins. All of your coins will be secure and safe on your local machine, and no one knows where your local machine is. So that's really the best setup for this type of masternode. So what we'll do is we're actually going to create two wallets. One wallet will be running on the Linux VPS, and one wallet will be running on your local machine. And so we will have to configure two wallets. It's a little bit more of a configuration, but it's the best, safest way to go about it, because you can also turn off your local wallet and you'll still be collecting Masternode rewards. So your local wallet can be turned off, say if you lost power or you just wanted to reboot your computer. The Masternode will continue to run up in the cloud on the VPS machine, and you'll still be getting rewards and you won't affect your Masternode. The Windows wallet will contain all the coins, so if you want to be staking, you will need to leave the Windows wallet on or your local wallet on to be getting staking rewards. But you don't need to have it on to get the Masternode rewards. So that's really the best setup, as it's the safest and most secure. And then it allows you the flexibility to actually turn your machine off and not have to affect your Masternode, because if you turn your Masternode on and off all the time, you always have to get that sort of boot up waiting period once your Masternode comes online the first time, and it's a long wait sometimes for that first reward. So if you're turning your Masternode on and off all the time, you're missing out on a lot of rewards. So that's what we'll do, is we're going to set up, it's called a Linux VPS with a Windows cold wallet or a Macintosh cold wallet, whatever you want to be installing. It's a local cold wallet, and the cold refers to it doesn't have to be connected to the internet all the time. It's really just collecting coins, or it's allowing you to view the coins you've gotten from your Masternode, and it allows you to be staking if you want to be doing that. The first step is to download the wallet, the Windows wallet or your local wallet, it being Macintosh or Windows or whatever. And to do that, you want to go to the GitHub site, and I'm going to have a link down here in the comments of this video with all of these links here. So the first one's just the GitHub. And then here on the GitHub, you're going to see the different releases. So the most recent is always going to be up here at the top, and you can see the different versions. And there is a newer version here, and I am getting the Windows, so I'm going to go for the Windows version right here. And I'm going to save this. Just go to Save As. So I'm going to save it here onto the desktop. And so the wallet is really this executable. There's no installation process. The installation process sort of is just putting this executable where you want to store the executable itself. So what I suggest is not storing it here on the desktop, as it might get confusing, as you might think it's something that you don't need, or you might remove it at one point. So what I would do is put the executable in with the rest of my programs on my computer. So I'm going to go to my C drive and go to Program Files, and in here I'm going to create a new folder. And that's where I'm going to put this executable. But then I want to send a shortcut on my desktop, because I don't want to have to come into this folder every single time to open the wallet. So I'm going to do a send to desktop, and it creates a shortcut. And then I can close this. And now I can put this shortcut wherever I want. I can just leave it here on the desktop, or I can put it like in my programs area and under my Windows. I just like to leave it here on the desktop. So you just double click that. And the first time it loads up, or if you haven't started it in a long time, it needs to synchronize with the network, which basically means it's downloading the blockchain. And right now you can see that it has this progress bar. If you hover over it, it gives you a good indication where it's at. It says it's processed 520 blocks of the history, and it looks like it's 4 weeks ago is the most recent block that it's found so far. So what it's doing is connecting to different computers out there. If you hover over this, you can see how many connections you have. And then you hover here and you can see how far along your blocks are. One thing I like to do to just give me a good rough idea of how well it's connecting and downloading the blockchain is I go to the debug menu, so help debug menu, come to this information tab, and here's where you can tell how many connections you have and the current block that it's downloading right now and the time of that block. So right now it's downloading blocks that are from the 29th of April. So it's a little ways away, and as long as this number here of the current number of blocks is increasing, you know, it could be increasing slowly, or as long as it's increasing, you know you are downloading the blockchain. If this number gets stuck, say for like 20 minutes or half an hour on the same block, there may be an issue, and you probably want to go check out the Discord channel and ask if anybody's having problems downloading or syncing their wallet. This is called syncing your wallet. So all we really need to do is kind of wait for this, give it some time. What I can do, and just close this, while we're waiting for this to synchronize, we can sort of get this wallet set up. And what we want in this wallet the first time we set it up is we want to go to File, or actually just go to the Receive tab. And the Receive tab, you're going to see these are your receiving addresses for your wallet. So this is where people can send you coins to the addresses in here. You're going to have one by default, so the first time you install a wallet you get one. It's not the same as anyone else's, it's just your first address. And right now it has no label. So what we want to do is we're going to give this one a label. So if you just go to Edit, I'm going to just call this one Collecting, because this is where I'm going to be collecting my coins to set up my Masternode. You can call this whatever you want. This label is just for your viewing. No one else can see what this label is, and no one else knows what you're calling this address. All they can ever see is this address. So this is just a friendly name you give to this address so you can differentiate them inside your wallet here. So what I'm going to use this address for is when I go out onto the exchanges and purchase coins, I'm going to send them to this address after I've purchased them. And you know, you could create 2 or 3 of these collecting, or you could say from exchange, and if it's from, you know, at different times, you can create a new address for each time you've sent coins here from the exchange. It's really up to you. To be simple though, I'm just going to create one, but you can create as many as you want. And I'm going to create one more address while we're in here. And to create a new address, you always just come down here and hit new address, and then you specify a label. You don't have to, but I like to specify it, that way I know what this address will be used for. And this will actually be my Masternode address, so my Masternode collateral address. And that term is used for the coins that you put onto an address and you lock into your Masternode. When you run a Masternode, you have to lock the coins in that Masternode so you can't spend them. And that allows you to run the Masternode, and that's what makes the network nice, is you lock all these coins in the Masternodes, and you're not, you know, sending them to an exchange or selling them or anything. They're not being transferred around. They're locked in the system, and that kind of gives the network stability and the coin stability. So this is what this is called, is a collateral address. And really all it is where you're going to put your collateral to run your Masternode. And you want to have that address sort of a special address, because you don't want to be collecting coins on that address. As when you make that collateral transaction, which is where you send the coins to that collateral address to lock them, you're going to want to do that in one single step and for an exact amount. So what I do is I like to create this address, and I don't use it for anything but for that initial collateral transaction. And we'll get to that in a later step. But that's what this address will be for. So I'll hit OK. And now we have the 2 addresses. Now what we can do is we can encrypt this wallet. And you always want to encrypt the wallet before you start using it, because if you run into problems encrypting it and you fail to be able to unencrypt it, if you have coins on there and they're encrypted, you won't be able to get to them. So before I start using this wallet for collecting coins or sending coins to it or anything like that, I always want to encrypt it. So what I want to do is go to Settings, Encrypt Wallet, and in here you're going to specify the password or passphrase, whatever you want. And you want to do something very complex, because if somebody gets access to your wallet file, your wallet.dat file, or even gets on your computer while you're not watching, they could get into this wallet if they don't know the passphrase. You want something, secure. I'm going to do something very simple here. I do not suggest you do something as simple as what I'm doing here. You should do a very secure password, or passphrase is what's recommended, which is a bunch of words. And make sure you write those down, because if you ever lose that, you'll never be able to get access to your coins. So I put in a password. It says, warning, don't lose this passphrase or you will lose your coins. Yes, I understand that. And then what it's going to do is it's going to want to restart the wallet, and that's what this is warning you, and that's perfectly fine. So what it does is it closes the wallet. Whenever you close these wallets, you always want to give them a few seconds to actually complete their closing. Sometimes they do some cleanup activities on the internal database. So sometimes you'll see a window pop up and says, don't turn off the computer or don't do anything until this is finished. I always just give it a few seconds, say 5 or 10 seconds. And then once that's done, you can open them back up the wallet. Alright, so now that we've restarted the wallet, you can see now this icon down here has a locked symbol. And what this is saying that the wallet is encrypted and locked. And those are two different terms. Encryption is putting a password on your wallet. And locked and unlocked is sort of what you do with that password. So when your wallet is encrypted, it means it has a password. But it doesn't mean it's locked yet. You have to lock the wallet, or you have to unlock the wallet to sort of secure it. Whenever you open these wallets, they always lock automatically. That protects, if your machine gets rebooted and someone turns it on and they can get into your wallet, it automatically locks it when it just turns it on. So what we want to do first thing is make sure we can unlock it. So if you go to settings, unlock wallet, we're going to uncheck this for staking only box right now. This is for when you only want to unlock the wallet partially to allow it to stake rewards, but we want to unlock it fully. So we're going to uncheck that. We're going to put in our password and hit OK. And that has changed to unlocked. So it's still encrypted. That means it has a password and you can lock and unlock it. But right now it's unlocked. And this is good news. That means I can safely unlock my wallet. So I know my password. And now that I have an encrypted wallet, what I want to do is make a backup of this wallet. If I ever have a computer problem, I also want to have a backup. So before I start sending coins to this wallet, I still want to make a backup. That way I don't, send some coins and then crazy luck that the machine crashes and I don't have a backup. So before you start doing anything else, you still want to make a backup. So go to File, Backup Wallet. And then on the desktop here is where I'm going to put my backup, and I'm just going to give it a simple name, which is the coin name, and then a date. And that just lets me know exactly what this file is and when I created it. And then I also put in wallet.dat. That way I know this is a wallet file. If I just put the coin name and then a date, I wouldn't know this was a wallet file, and I may not know what to do with it. But this lets me know, hey, this is your wallet file, protect it. So if I ever, find it on a thumb drive, I realize that my wallet file is on that thumb drive and I didn't have it secure. So that lets you know, hey, this is a file you want to keep secure. I'm going to put that here on the desktop. So just hit save. And there is the backup. And what I want to do now is I want to move this backup off of this computer. You don't want to keep all your backups on the same computer that your actual wallet is, because then that sort of defeats the purpose. So I would throw this onto a thumb drive or something, or maybe a different computer. It's really up to you. But what I like to do is put it on a thumb drive, and then I throw it in my safe. And then my password I don't keep in the same location as these actual backups, because that also defeats the purpose. If you're encrypting it, but you also store the password with the encrypted file, anyone could decrypt it. So in my safe, I throw the thumb drives with these backups, and then on a piece of paper is where I write my passwords, and I store that in a totally different location, not with these wallet.dat backups. So now we have our backup. I'm going to move that offline. We have our wallet and it's encrypted, and if you notice down here at the bottom, it finished what it was saying, and that means it's finished synchronizing. And you can double check that by hovering over this little checkbox, and it says, well, if I highlight the wallet, it says up to date. and it gives you the number of blocks that you're at. So up to date means good. That means this wallet is ready to start collecting coins. You don't want to start sending coins to this address, even though you were able to get this address. You don't want to start sending coins to it until you also know that this wallet can synchronize. Because if you try to send coins to this wallet and you can't synchronize, you're never going to see those coins in this wallet, and it's going to freak you out. You're going to think, you lost all your coins. So make sure that this wallet synchronizes totally. Now this wallet is good. We can go out and start purchasing coins and sending them to this wallet. So what I want to do is go out to an exchange and purchase my coins, and I'm going to send them to this address here that I called collecting. So to get that address, I right click it and just say copy address. Then I go out onto my exchange and withdraw them from the exchange and send them to this address. So you just paste it into the exchange form when you want to do the withdrawal. And I'm going to do that now. So we're just going to sit back, and I will be back in a minute after I purchase those. Okay, and we're back. And what I have done, if we come here to my transactions tab, you can see that I have purchased 3,501 coins from an exchange and sent them here to my collecting address. And the reason I did 3,501 is, the collateral, the Masternode collateral, 3,500 coins. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to purchase a little bit extra on the exchange. You don't want to purchase exactly 3,500 coins, because when you send them from the exchange to this wallet, you're going to have to pay a transaction fee. So when you're on the exchange, don't purchase exactly the collateral amount. Purchase one extra coin or half of a coin. Really, it's up to you. I suggest just one to make it simple, but you can, get away with a half of one or even a quarter of one if you really want. But the simple thing is just purchase one extra coin. That way you can make a ton of different transactions. You don't have to worry about not having enough coins. Because if we tried to transfer these, if I only had 3,500 coins here in this wallet, and I tried to transfer these to my Masternode collateral address, I would have to pay another transaction fee, and then I won't have exactly 3,500 coins. So just purchase that extra one and save yourself the headache. Further down the line, when you're used to this, you can probably start purchasing smaller extra coins. But to start out with, I'd say one extra one makes it simple. So we have purchased these from the exchange, and it looks like they are confirming, and it has 2 of 10 recommended. I know I sent them to myself from the exchange, so I'm going to trust that this is a safe transaction and it's good. So I'm just going to send these now to my collateral address, and I want to send these to that collateral address in one single transaction, and I want it to be for exactly 3,500 coins. So I want to get my collateral address, so I go to the receive tab and then copy that collateral address and then paste it in here, and it autofills that label. That lets me know, okay, that is a address in my address book, so I have put the correct address in there. You don't want to send it to the wrong address. So this gives you a good indication that you've sent it to the correct address. And then 3,500 exactly. And now what I want to do, double check this all looks good, make sure it's one single transaction, and then we can just hit send. If you tried to send yourself, 3,000 in one transaction and then 5,000 another transaction, it wouldn't work. You need to do it in one single transaction of 3,500. This pop-up just says, hey, I'm sending 3,500 coins, and I'm going to charge you a 0.01 transaction fee. And this is the reason you needed that extra one coin, is because each time you do one of these transfers, you need to pay a transaction fee. So that looks good. I'm just going to hit yes. And that went away, and it's warning me, hey, or it's notifying me, hey, you sent some coins. So let's go to the transaction tab and take a look at that transaction, because this will be an important transaction for setting up this Masternode. And you can see it's this top one, where it says payment to yourself. It doesn't have the address because you're just sending it between addresses in your wallet. And you're going to notice this amount is really just 0.01. So the reason this amount only shows that transaction fee is because this amount column shows coins coming in and out of your wallet. And what we did is we sent the coins from one address to another address inside of our wallet. We didn't actually send the coins outside the wallet. The only coins that left our wallet is that transaction fee, and that's why it says this. But if you want to get some more details on this transaction, you double click it, and then you can see, yes, this was that one where I sent myself 3,500 coins. So this is our collateral transaction, and what we need to do before we can actually run our Masternode is this collateral transaction has to have 16 confirmations. Right now we're at 6 of 10. And that 10 is just so you can trust that transaction, but you need 16 for the network to consider that a valid collateral transaction. So right now we only have, now we have 7, but what we can do is we can move on to the next step while we're waiting for those 16 confirmations. We don't need to sit here and wait. We can move on, and then before we actually turn on our Masternode, we'll do another double check to make sure we have 16 on that transaction. We're going to install a program called Putty. Putty is the program we're going to use to communicate with our VPS and set it up. So what you'll want to do is go to this website, putty.org, and we're going to download the application. Click this download Putty here. And then I'm running a Windows 64-bit, so I'm going to choose that. And I'm just going to hit the run. And then I'm going to step through this installation. Just everything is default is what we want. Don't need to use README. And just hit finish. So now we have Putty installed. And before we connect to our VPS, we're going to want to create an RSA key. And the RSA key will be used to communicate with our VPS server in a secure way. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to create a public and private key pair for your computer to connect to your VPS. And you're going to set it up so the only person that can connect to that VPS is somebody with the private key. So that way you can protect your VPS from anyone connecting to it. And the only person that can connect to it is you, because you should be the only person with that private key. So to create this RSA key, we just go to the Putty installation folder, and we want to choose this program that Putty installed called PuttyGen. And this is how you generate RSA keys. So the first step is to click Generate, and then you move your mouse around until this status bar here is filled up. You're creating just random movements of your mouse. That way the key that's created is unique to your situation. Alright, so now we have this RSA key. This is the public key we will use, and we need to save this public key and our private key into a location. So I'm going to save them here on the desktop. But before I save them, I'm going to do an extra level of security, and I'm going to put a passphrase onto my private key. That way if anyone gets access to my private key, they still can't get onto my VPS unless they know my password. So I'm going to create a very simple password, but you don't want to create a simple one. You want to create a complex one. And you're going to also want to remember that, because that will be the only way you can connect to your VPS. The one good thing about this setup is the VPS doesn't actually contain any coins in this setup. The VPS is just running the Masternode. So if you lose access to this private key or this password on your private key, it's not the end of the world. You'll have to recreate your Masternode on the VPS, but you won't lose your coins. Your coins are only going to be located in your local Windows wallet. So now I got a passphrase here. I'm going to save off this public key. Just save it onto the desktop. And I'm just going to give it a super simple name. What you'll want to do is create a real name with the coin name in it, and my suggestion is you create one of these RSA keys for every coin in every VPS instance. So say if you had 3 masternodes of the same coin, you're going to want to label each of these keys differently and create a separate key for each masternode instance. And that way if somebody does get access to one of your keys or somehow hacks into it, not all of your masternodes are at risk. So I suggest you create a separate one for each coin in Masternode. So I'm just going to create it PubKey, or call it PubKey, but you can call it something with the coin name and maybe a date, whichever you want. So now we have the public key. Now we're going to save the private key. Just do the same thing onto the desktop. I'm just going to call it PrivKey. So now we have the public and the private key. And this is saved off so we can get access to it later. You'll want to store these in a permanent location also, not here on the desktop, so save them somewhere where you remember where they're at, because you will need them when we set up Putty later, or you'll at least need the private key. So I'm going to leave this Putty Gen window open, because we will use this in a minute when we connect to our VPS. You don't have to use it, but I like to use it because I have this key already set up. This is a key I'm going to enter when we get to that VPS setup step. So right now, I'm just going to move on to the next step, and we're going to leave this here. Now we're ready to initiate a VPS, Linux VPS out on the cloud. And the service I'm going to use to do this is called Vultr. You can use any sort of VPS service you want. I'm just comfortable with Vultr, and I've been using them for a while, and I seem to like what they do, but there's plenty of other VPS providers out there. You can use any of them for this, and the steps are basically the same. So what I'm going to use is Vultr, and down in the links here you're going to have, there's a referral link. You can use that if you want, or I will get something, whenever you purchase something I'll get a little bit of cut or something. But if you want, you can just use the standard link. You don't need to use my referral, or if you have a friend that has a referral, you can use theirs. That's up to you. But I already have a Vultr account set up, so I'm just going to log into my Vultr right now. My Vultr dashboard. And the first time you open the Vultr website, what you're going to want to do before you do anything is set up your billing. So you go to the billing tab, and on the billing tab you're going to have to set up you're going to have to prepay for these servers, because you pay for these servers by the hour. So you need to prepay, and that way they can take a little bit of out. I'm not sure how they do it, but they take a little bit out like every other day or every week or something like that. And you go to the billing tab, and you set up either some Bitcoin or you set up your credit card, and then you prepay. You can prepay just the minimum, which I think is $10. And the server that we're going to be setting up is $5 a month. So if you just go with the minimum, it'll give you at least 2 months, then you can decide if you like them. And after 2 months, if you don't like them, you can go do this on a different provider. But once you've set up that billing, then you go here to servers, and then you want to add that SSH key that we created in Putty Gen. So you click this SSH keys, you hit add key, and then we're going to give it a name. And I like to just give it the coin name and then Masternode 01. That way if you ever have a bunch of these masternodes, you can tell the difference between them here in your servers list. And what you want to put in this box is that SSH RSA public key. So back in the Putty generator, it was this value here. So you want to highlight the entire thing, copy that, and paste it in here, hit add key, and if you did it right, it'll say SSH key added. And that's perfect. So now we're ready to start up this server, and when we start the server, we're going to link it to that key. That way we're the only ones that can connect to this server. So to create that new server, you hit this big plus button. And then here you're going to choose your continent and then a location on that continent that's closest to you. I'm just going to leave it there at New York. And then you want to come down to Ubuntu and choose 1604. And then you can choose the size, which is really basically the memory and CPU power of this machine. I'm going to go with this $5 a month version, which is 1 CPU and 1 GB of memory. You can probably run it on this smaller version if this version is available to you. Really the big difference between these two is the amount of memory. This has 500 megs of memory. This one has 1 GB of memory. If you do start to run more than one masternode, this 1 GB of memory version, you can run multiple masternodes. And the price is the same if you have this one or the other one. So that's really up to you. I go with the $5 a month because I know all of these work with this and I've done this. But if you start doing these and you want to go try the $250 a month, I know that these $250 a month are sort of hard to come by. They don't give you very many of these because they want you to purchase the $5 one. They don't really want you to go for the smaller one. But for this instance, I'm going to go with this 1 GB of memory, $5 a month version. And there's a couple features here that you could choose if you want. Really the only one that I would suggest that you might want to think about is this enable auto backups. For $1 a month, it's going to do automatic backups of your VPS machine. So if your VPS machine ever crashes or something happens at their server farm, you can always restore it from a backup, and you don't have to go through this whole process of setting up this Masternode again. There's also this DDoS protection, which protects you from people sort of hitting a machine and trying to block you from getting Masternodes or Masternode rewards. And I've heard of that happening on some coins where the coin is worth a lot and those rewards are worth a lot. People will sort of block other people's Masternodes from getting rewards by DDoS attacking them. If you start to have a problem with that, I guess you could enable this, but it's $10 a month. It's quite a lot, so that might be something you need in the future, but right now you don't need that. Auto backup's really the only thing you're going to need right now. And then you need to specify the key that you're going to associate with this server. So I'm going to specify that key we just created, and then I'm going to give it a name. And I use the same naming format for all of these. That way I can tell all the difference. I know this key is associated with this machine, and so forth. And double check, I'm going to deploy one server for $5 a month. Just hit deploy now. And it says the server is added successfully, and then the status here is installing. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit back and let this do its process. It's going to take a couple minutes, but I'm going to fast forward the video so you don't have to wait too long. We're done with this Putty generator for now. I'm just going to close that. But I'm going to fast forward the video until this says that it's ready for me to connect. Okay, so this has changed its status now to running, which means I can probably connect to it. So I'm going to click here in this white space just to give me this next screen, which has a lot more information about it. So it looks like this machine is ready. So what I can do is connect to it with my Putty. So I would just go to the normal version of the program, which is just Putty. And you open that up, and in here you're going to specify the IP address. So if you come back to this window, you can click this little button to copy it, and this copies it to your clipboard. We're going to paste it in there, and then we're going to come down under the connections section and then open up this SSH, and then click this off area, and this is where we're going to put the private key for that RSA key. And go to browse, and I stored it on the desktop, so you go find it wherever it is. And I'm going to come back up here to this session tab, and I'm going to save this session, and really all that does is save this configuration. So it saves this IP address and that RSA key, but it makes it a little bit easier in the future. If you want to connect, you just reopen this session and you don't have to add all those values again. So I give it the name, same format, and then you hit save, and that saves it here in your box. So if in the future I ever want to reopen this connection, I would open Putty, I would highlight this one and say load, and it'll load that configuration. But I'm ready to open this, so now that I have it, I just hit open, and you're going to get this little security warning. I know this is a secure server I'm connecting to, so I can ignore this right now, but if somebody said, hey, connect to my other machine, you might want to read this and make sure you're really should be connecting that machine. But I just created this server. I know this is a good one. I'm going to hit yes. And you want to log in as root, which is ROOT. And then it's going to ask for the passphrase for your RSA key. It's not this password listed in this window. It's the passphrase, well, I closed the Putty generator window, but it's the passphrase you specified on your RSA key. So it's not this password. It's that passphrase on your RSA key. So I'm going to put that in. And now I am logged in. Now all we need to do is start running the commands. And there's only a couple to install this wallet. They're all set up in this script. So what you want to do is down in the comments section, you're going to find these Linux commands. You're going to want to highlight these and copy them, and then paste them into your Putty window. And to paste in the Putty window, you just right click your mouse. You don't choose any options. You don't use your control buttons on your keyboard. You don't use Control P or Control V and Control C. you only use your right mouse button and you right click once, and that pastes it. So right click once, paste it. Now I hit the enter key on my keyboard and it downloaded that. The next command just changes some security settings. So I right click once and it pastes it, hit enter, and then we need to run it. So you copy that one, right click once and hit enter, and now it's going to go through all of this and it's going to ask a couple questions. This first one, do you really want to install the dependencies? Yes, because this is the first time I'm setting this up, so you hit yes. And then it's going to go through its process. I'm just going to sit back and let this run because this might take a few minutes, and I'll fast forward the video. If you want to get a rough idea of how long this actually takes, you can see the clock down here, and then so once you get to the end of the video you can see, oh, by the end of it, how long has this script been running on my machine, because I'm going to fast forward this. So I'm just going to sit back and fast forward it and should be back in a second. Okay, so now we're at the part of the script where we start entering some information. It says, give me the IP address of this server. And to get that IP address, you can just go back to your Vulture window and click this little link to copy that to the clipboard. And then remember to paste in here, you just right click once and then hit enter. And then it's asking for the Masternode private key. And that is a value from your wallet, your Windows or your local wallet. So you go back into your local wallet, go to Help Debug menu, and then go to this Console tab, and then you type Masternode genkey. And this gives you a private key for your Masternode. Don't share this with anyone. And what that does is it allows this Windows wallet or this local wallet to communicate with this Linux wallet. So as long as both of these wallets have that same private key, they can communicate. So this one, and this is just for this one. Each time you run that private key command, it creates a new one. So when you run, say, 4 or 5 Masternodes, you're going to have a different one for each one. So each time you run the command, it'll give you a new one. So we just need to paste in here. So you right click once, hit enter. And now it looks like it has booted up the server. This looks good. What we can do now is we can go back over to our local wallet. Since this server is running now, this is all good. This should be good. We come back into our local wallet. In the local wallet, what we're going to do is double check our transaction, our collateral transaction. We got 31 confirmations. That's plenty. So what we can do now, once we have that collateral transaction, we bring up that debug window again. Looks like I have it behind here. What we're going to type in here now is Masternode outputs. And this will give you a couple more pieces of information we're going to need to configure the Windows wallet or the local wallet. The first here is what is called a transaction hash, or a transaction. It's basically the transaction ID of that collateral transaction you made. Some people will call it the transaction hash. And then we have this output index, which is an index on that transaction or that address. Now that we have these 3 values here, what I want to do is I want to copy and paste these into a notepad document, and that's to make this next step a lot easier because it's going to allow me to get to these values without having to switch windows around. So I copied this entire thing, including the command I ran, and then I have the values out here, so I know which values are which. So I'm just going to move that down there. I'm going to close this debug window for now, just so it's out of the way. And then now in your local wallet, you're going to go to the Masternodes tab, and then you're going to click this Create button. And this is where you're going to put all of that information. So this first value, Alias, this is really just another friendly name you're going to give your Masternode. It needs to be unique, so each Masternode you create, it needs to be unique for your wallet. So each one you create in this wallet, you want to have a unique name. So I'm just going to go with Masternode 1, or you could do Masternode 01 or 01, whatever you want. Address. So this is the IP address of your VPS server. So you come over and you copy that address and then paste it in there. And then you need to put the port number. So you put a colon and then the port number. And the port number is located down in the comments area. You can see I have this section here that describes these values you're entering. The port number is here, so you have your IP address colon and then a port. And you can just put that in here. And then it says the private key. That's your Masternode private key that we generated earlier. And it was the Masternode gen key value. So let's move this so you can kind of see both of these at the same time. So PrivKey here is the Masternode gen key value. Transaction hash, that is this Masternode's output transaction hash. Make sure you don't copy the double quotes. And then, well, I pasted that in the wrong column. And then you have your output index, and that's this value out here. It's either going to be a 0 or a 1. In my case, it's a 0. And just ignore these other two columns for now. These are something that you might be able to set up later once you're good at these masternodes. I believe, I've never used them, but I believe what you can do is you can specify a special address and a percentage, and you can automatically send that other address certain coins. So, you know, if you wanted to say some coins I'm just going to save for long term, I will specify, you know, my savings address and a percentage, and then you never touch those. That's really all that's for. But right now you just leave those blank. So it looks like we have all of our values here. We're going to hit OK. We don't need this window anymore. We're going to reboot this wallet or restart it. So you go to exit, give it a minute to close out, make sure it really does close out. Open it back up again. And this time you go down to the Masternodes tab. You don't see anything here yet, but if you hit update, it will pop up that masternode you just added to that config file. So or when you hit the create, and it configured it, now it's here. It says not in masternode list. That's because you haven't started the masternode yet. So before you start that, you want to do one last double check in case you did this really fast, and double check this transaction. Make sure it's the right one. This is the transaction that I did 3,500 coins. So this is my collateral transaction. Make sure it has 16 confirmations. Has 42, we're good. So highlight or select the row you want and you hit start. And then you get this error, and you're going to see this sometimes, could not allocate VIN. What this means is that I have my wallet locked. You have to have your wallet unlocked for you to start these masternodes. So just hit OK. Come back in here. I totally forgot that I rebooted my wallet and I just need to unlock it. But I want to unlock it fully, so I'm going to uncheck the for staking. Now that it's unlocked, highlight it again, hit start, and this time we successfully started the masternode. And you see here that this didn't update. This doesn't auto update. You have to hit this update button. Now it says the masternode is running. So it looks like we're good. One other thing you want to do is whenever you start this masternode, it automatically locks it. If you do have coins in here and you're trying to stake them, so come right back in here after you start that, come right back over here, do unlock. This time leave it checked for staking only, and that will leave your wallet in a state where it's unlocked to allow you to get staking rewards. But if somebody came over here to try to send your coin somewhere, they wouldn't be able to without that password. So it still locks your wallet enough to block people from sending coins out of it, but it allows your wallet to gain staking rewards. And you always, before you close it or before you're done with viewing it, you just make sure before you leave and say, oh, it is encrypted and it's unlocked for staking. This wallet is good. I don't need to touch it anymore. I can, just let it sit there. But now our masternode is running. You can always come back to this masternodes tab. You can hit update, make sure it still says it's running. And really, we're basically done. We have our masternode running. What we can do is I like to leave it here on this transactions tab, and then I just wait around for my first transaction or my first masternode reward. That first masternode reward sometimes takes a while. It could take a day, or I've even heard people say that it takes more than a day. It really depends how many masternodes are out on the network. and you can come here to this Masternodes tab, and you can look out on the network and see how many are out there. Right now there's 122. And what you can do is you can see, I know this is the one that I just added because I know my IP address. You can see all the masternodes that are out there. If your masternode doesn't collect rewards for a while, you could probably go into the Discord server and ask people if they can see your masternode, make sure it's running, make sure it's functioning correctly. But what you can also do is you can come back over here to your Putty window, and in the Putty window you can type a command in here. I have these commands down in the comment section also. There's a couple commands that'll just give you some real generic information about your masternode, but it'll give you something to at least go on if you're concerned that your masternode isn't working quite right. The first one here is get info, and that just gets some basic info about the wallet on this VPS machine. And you can see it tells you, the wallet version. The most important thing you always want to check on your wallet on the VPS machine is really what block it's on. It's on 27662. If we come back over to our local wallet and we hover over this check mark, we can see it's on 27662. They're both on the same block. That means both of these these wallets are synchronized with the network. And this wallet's probably good for being up to date. So another command you can run is this masternode status, and that will give you the status of the masternode on the VPS. And what it says is status 9. 9 is the status you want. 9 means it is running and it's a very good masternode. Everything is functioning as designed. You're going to see this not capable reason, could not find suitable coins. That's just a generic message that shows up because this wallet here on the VPS machine doesn't have any coins. But it is linked to our local wallet, which has the coins. So that's just sort of a bunk message. Just ignore that. This is the important thing. If it says status 9, your masternode is up and running and you should get your rewards. So just, leave this running overnight and maybe even for a whole day. If you don't have rewards after, say, 24 hours, you can check in the Discord and say, hey, how long did it take for people to get their first reward lately? And that'll give you a good idea if you need to start looking at other things. But this looks perfectly good to me right now. I think this wallet is, or this masternode is running perfectly. One last thing I forgot to mention, what I like to do with this Putty window, now that we know this masternode is up and running and everything looks good, is I leave this Putty window up and running until I've gotten that first masternode reward. Once I've gotten that first reward, I know that my masternode is running and functioning fine, and I can close this Putty window. And to close this Putty window, you don't run any commands in here, you just hit the X up here. And when that says, do you want to close this session, you hit yes. All that does is close that session to the VPS. It doesn't shut the VPS down or stop anything from running on the VPS, so your masternode is still functioning and running on the VPS. But I just like to leave it up, that Putty window up, until I get rewards. That way I can run that command to get info or get the status, just to validate a few things until it's actually gotten that first reward.